Everybody seems to be talking about the presidential elections in Romania right now, and for two main reasons. First, elections are underway. But let's be clear, people aren't just watching Romania out of curiosity. They're watching because they want to influence the outcome and push their preferred candidates into power. Big players like Russia and the US have a habit of meddling in elections, backing parties that serve their interests. Take Germany, for example. During the last elections, both Moscow and Washington pulled every string to boost the far-right AfD, a party that openly supports disbanding the European Union, aligning with Trump's vision and even backing Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Now it's Romania's turn, and the geopolitical tug-of-war is in full swing. Secondly, Romania appears to be caught in the middle of a new Yalta-style geopolitical shuffle, with Trump on his way to dismantling NATO and ceding Eastern Europe back to Putin. The stakes are high. He just announced plans to relocate 35,000 US soldiers from Germany to Hungary. But here's the issue. NATO's eastern border isn't Hungary, it's Romania. So what does this move suggest? It looks like Trump is preparing to redraw the map, abandon Ukraine, and even throw Romania into Putin's hands, shifting NATO's frontier back to his favorite dictator in Budapest. Romania is in the process of selecting its next president, and the political landscape is a battlefield. Two camps are at war, and at the center of the chaos stands one man, candidate Georgescu. Who is Georgescu? Well, he has the perfect profile of a Cold War spy. Back in communist Romania, regular citizens weren't allowed to travel to Western Europe. If you went abroad, you either had serious connections or you were working with the infamous Securitate, the communist Romanian secret service. And guess what? Georgescu traveled as a student for exchange programs. His entire career follows the classic intelligence officer playbook, working only in state institutions, jumping from one ministry to other, always in roles that scream covered job. And then for the past 10 years, he lived in Austria. Now let's talk about money. Georgescu, a former Romanian state employee, miraculously bought a €500,000 house in Austria, one of Europe's most expensive countries. For context, in the 90s and 2000s, a Romanian state employee earned around €1,000 a month, less than half of what a Western European bus driver made. But somehow Georgescu and his wife managed to live in Austria for a decade without jobs, no income, nothing. And his wife? She's a healer. Yes, an aura healing, energy tea giving healer. That's their official explanation for financial stability. Mystical tea and good vibes. Meanwhile, Austria has long been known as a paradise for spies. Both Eastern and Western intelligence agencies have been playing their games there in Austria since the Cold War. Austria's lenient laws mean that as long as you're not harming their country, nobody asks too many questions. Convenient, right? Now, here's where things get even crazier. Georgescu is linked to a network of mercenaries tied to Romanian intelligence services. Recently, two Russian embassy employees were expelled from Romania for their connection to these mercenaries. And then, boom, a major bust. Authorities arrested the head of this mercenary network and found 1.5 million in cash at his house. Alongside that, 20 automatic weapons and tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition. This guy, the one with a mountain of cash and the arsenal at home, was Georgescu's connection to Moscow. He even gifted Georgescu a Mercedes SUV because nothing says innocent friendship like a luxury car from a guy stockpiling weapons and money. And Georgescu's social media campaign? It costed millions of euros, yet officially he declared zero campaign expenses. At first they denied any spending, then they admitted to some expenses, then they denied connections to the mercenary guy. Then they admitted to knowing him, and then admitted to the Mercedes gift. And now they are being investigated for treason. The mercenary leader is currently on the run, and authorities discovered that he actually had 6 million in cash. The missing money, likely in Moscow or funneled through his mercenary operations in Africa, possibly tied to Wagner Group activities. Meanwhile, Georgescu's presidential nomination has just been rejected by Romanian authorities. The reason? His openly undemocratic views, the fact that his campaign was financed by foreign forces, and his deep connections to the Russian secret services. In short, he wasn't running for Romania, he was running for Moscow. And who's upset about this? Moscow. The Kremlin openly supported Georgescu's views. Georgescu, in turn, is a big fan of Putin and opposes the European Union. Russia is furious that their asset was removed from the Romanian presidential race. The Americans. The new sheriff in Washington is pushing for the collapse of the European Union and an economic war to dominate Europe, Canada, and beyond. With this shift in policy, the US is aligning, at least ideologically, with Moscow, treating democratic Europe as their new enemy. This is why Trump's supporters and figures like Elon Musk are backing anti-EU, anti-NATO parties, working to end military aid to Ukraine and cozy up to Russia. The Romanian people, they are also mad. Romania is a poor country, badly managed, with political class that's both corrupt and incompetent. The elites are incredibly wealthy, while ordinary citizens struggle with low wages and a bleak economy. Just like in the US, where many voters backed Trump due to economic hardship, Romanians see Georgescu as potential savior. They hope he'll fix the economy, give them a better life, and end the corruption. And they are willing to ignore all the glaring red flags to believe in that hope. The reality is that this is the same script we've seen before. When people are desperate for change, they'll tolerate anything from their chosen hero. As Trump once said,
my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
That's the situation in Romania. Georgescu's followers will stand by him no matter what. To them, he's not just politician, he's Messiah. This is exactly why democracy is so vulnerable. When times are tough, when there's war at the border, the economy is collapsing, and the people can't afford basic living. They don't judge facts. They throw all their hopes and energy behind whoever promises to burn the system down. And Trump was right. When people are desperate, a leader can say anything, dismantle democracy, wreck the social order, and still lose no votes. Because the people are sick of the system. They are sick of politicians who lie, steal, and serve only themselves. They are sick of corporations where CEOs take obscene bonuses while firing workers. Look at what's happening at Starbucks. In late 2024, workers went on strike during the holiday season, demanding better wages and conditions. But instead of negotiating in good faith, new CEO Brian Niccol pocketed $96 million in just his first 4 months on the job. $96 million bonus for him. A few months later, in early 2025, he fired more than 1,000 corporate employees as part of a so-called restructuring. Look at Tesla. Around the same times, Tesla sought approval to reinstate Elon Musk's insane $56 billion pay package. $56 billion, even after mass layoffs affecting 10% of its workforce. This is the world we live in. CEOs collect hundreds of millions while gutting their own companies. And somehow, the people suffering the most end up voting for billionaires, corrupt spies, and extremists, because they've lost faith in everything else. Yes, it sounds absurd, but people don't vote with logic. They vote with anger. They see a broken system and would rather watch it collapse than keep playing by rules designed to keep them poor. And that's exactly how democracy dies. Not because people love dictators, but because they have been pushed so far that they stop caring if the ship sinks. These so-called saviors don't save anything. They burn everything down, they wreck economies, fire workers, and dismantle international stability. Their mission isn't to build, it's to destroy. Russian-backed assets aren't concerned with improving people's lives. Their goal is to dismantle European democracy, weaken NATO, and spread chaos. And they're doing a damn good job. Unfortunately, people won't realize the disaster until it will be too late. Just like many Americans now regret voting for Trump, Romanians may soon wake up to a nightmare, with democracy eroded, the economy in ruins, and suffering worse than ever. And the worst part? Many will still refuse to see the truth, because when people lose hope, they'd rather watch the world burn than admit they were mistaken. Again and again, history repeats itself. We always choose Barabbas over Jesus. We betray reason, we betray common sense, and in the end, we destroy ourselves.